Law of Crutches visually is talking about, let's say somebody have an accident and they break their leg, and in the process of healing their leg, and they want to start exercising that leg to be able to walk again, they have to use a walking aid. As a researcher, your own walking aid is existing literature, existing work. So any work you want to do, let's say you want to develop your background in the study, you download journals, you look at it, you look at maybe 5 different journals or 10 different journals. You look at it, how did they structure their journal? What was in their first paragraph? What was in their second paragraph? What was in their third paragraph? What was in their last paragraph? You look at it. You are not doing copy now. You are not doing copy and paste, but you are more like mirroring what they did in order for you to lean on it to write your own. As you, in fact, even savvy researchers still do it. There are notable journals that you can download and look at it. What do they write in their first paragraph? What did they write in their second paragraph? You look at it. You can stay with it. And then you start giving you an idea on how to write your own. So that is my law of crutches. You use a walking aid in order for your leg to be strong enough to stand on its own. So the walking aid you use in research is existing literatures. All right, let's go ahead. So I'm going to, so you cannot generate content effectively if I don't talk about construct and variables. You cannot generate content effectively if I don't talk about construct and variables. Construct and variables, they are the fabric of your work. Okay. Construct and variables, they are the fabric. Sorry, if you can still hear me, let me see. If you can still hear me, let me see your hand. Also good. If you can still hear me, let me see your hand, please. All right, thank you. So you cannot generate content effectively if I don't talk about constructs and variables. Constructs and variables, they are the fabric of your work. So, and I'm going to break it down. Constructs, like I said here, construct comes from the topic. Like construct is the subset of your topic. Every construct comes from your topic. And variables they come from your construct. So let me explain. For instance, I have to jump my slide. I'll come back so that it can make sense to you. For instance, the topic we are using as example is the impact of generative AI on digital marketing, the completion of that topic on digital marketing productivity. So just stay with me. So we have dependent constructs and independent constructs. Just like they implied, dependent, independent. It means your dependent is depending on your independent. The independent is a standalone construct, The dependent is leaning on the independent in order for it to have its outcome. You get dependent variables are more like what you call outcome variables, outcome constructs. So in this topic now, we have the impact of generative AI on digital marketing. So generative, you can see from the way the topic was constructed, the impact of generative AI on digital marketing. You can see on, that means it is generative AI that is impressing and impacting and influencing digital marketing. So by implication, digital marketing is our dependent variable. Generative AI is our construct. Sorry, I said construct comes from your topic. So digital marketing is our dependent construct, while generative AI is our independent construct. Olumide, you are raising your hand. Do you want to ask me a question? All right, let's continue. Don't worry. If you have any question, you ask me when I'm done. Impact of generative AI. Okay, so generative AI is our independent construct. Digital marketing is our dependent construct. So in order for us to move forward, we will derive our variables from these two constructs. You get? We will derive our variable from these two constructs. So the essence of we having variables and constructs is so that you can break down your objective into something to a focused direction. When we say the impact of generative AI on digital marketing is too broad, and in my past trainings, I used to teach on one of the first things I used to talk about is how to choose a researchable topic, but I'm not going to talk about it here. But if you want to choosing a researchable topic, constant variables is also part of the configuration. Constant and variable is the thing you have to put into consideration. So when you are choosing a researchable topic, you choose something that is not too broad, but after you choose it, you have to still narrow it down further through your construct and variables, and it will reflect on your objective. So if you want to break down generative AI to variables, generative AI, what is generative AI? Generative AI is basically popular or common AI tools that people use to generate content. ChatGPT is one of it. So ChatGPT is one of our variables. And before I go forward, your independent variable, your independent construct, you can decide to use just one variable for your independent variable. Why you have many dependent variables, and you can decide to have two. But it's not always advisable that your independent variables is too much, because it will reflect on your literature review, it will reflect on your research instruments and all that, to reflect on so many things. But we are going to get there. So in determining our variable for generative AI, ChatGPT is part of it. Meta AI is part of it. Chatbots, it's part of it. And life is easy now. If you don't know, you can hack. You can hack Google, and you can hack your AI to break it down for you to construct and variables. So, but digital marketing, our variables that we can use for our digital marketing, it involves content generation. It involves, sorry, it's somewhere. It involves content creation speed, content personalization, engagement rates. So those are our variables, and our variables will reflect in our objective. You get, we started from constructs, then we broke it down further to variables. And I told you the essence of doing this is to make your work to have a focus, such that if somebody else decides to choose your same topic to research on it, you might not arrive at the same variables. You get, and your variables, your choice of variables also determines the purpose you have in mind that you want to achieve with your work. Your choice of variables can reflect the research problem that you have identified. All right. So in this case, because I've done my homework, I've determined my construct and variables before this class. So I've been able to form two objectives for my construct and variables. So I said one of the objectives for this topic could be to examine the efficiency of AI on digital marketing productivity. Another one could be the effect of AI generated content. No. Sorry. Okay, because I made a correction. Okay, maybe not on this line. So what I was able to correct it to is that, sorry, I'm going to correct this slide later. So one of our objectives, just listen, the objective on your screen is not what I want to use. So because I've been able to identify my independent variable as ChatGPT, and I can decide to use two variables for my independent variable, and I can decide to use one. But in my case, in order not to complicate things too much, I want to stick with one, because when I choose one, it is easy for me to go deep. If you choose two, the only purpose for choosing two is just to do some comparative analysis on your two, and then depending on your topic. But in this case, I want to use one. So I'm using ChatGPT. So I'm going to be saying, to examine the efficiency of ChatGPT. ChatGPT is my independent variable. Don't forget that. To examine the efficiency of ChatGPT on, so this digital marketing now, I'm going to substitute it to one of my dependent variables. Don't be confused, please. Don't be. Which is one of my dependent variables is content creation speed. So my objective, if you have your notes, just write it down, not to make you feel confused. So it's to not be something like to examine the efficiency of ChatGPT on content creation speed. That's one of our objectives. Our second objective could be to determine the effect of ChatGPT on content personalization. That's another that's another dependent variable that we are using. So we've identified two dependent variables, which is content creation speed and content personalization. That's two. For the purpose of this class, we are limiting it to two. Normally, your objective should not be less than 3 and should not be more than 5. So the number of the objective you use is dependent on, number one, the word count of your entire work. The word count of your entire work. That's number one. You should put that into consideration. For instance, if your entire word count is 8,000 for your chapter 1 to 5, depending on the depth, also the depth of your analysis and the type of your analysis. For instance, if you are using mixed method and your word count is 8,000, you should not use more than 3,000. You should not use more than 3 objectives. Because if you use, let's say, use 5, at the end of the day, you have more word counts than necessary. Then you will now be looking for something to cut down. You know, that's you stressing yourself. So, but from the beginning, you can determine a lot of things. You understand? So, but then before we leave objective, there are principles of creating or develop. Yeah, there are principles of developing objective. You want to develop objective. The number one principle is, identify your variables. Number two is there's a way you phrase objective. You don't phrase it anyhow. You have to phrase it. And then listen to me carefully. Depending on the type of, I'm going to be teaching methodology on Saturday. Very, very important. So depending on the methodology you are using, it's going to also determine the phrase you are going to be using. For instance, if you are using qualitative analysis, which is interview and all that, or you are using systematic review, you use more to explore, something like that. But if you are using quantitative, you use something like to analyze, to examine, to determine, to evaluate. But then generally, you use phrases like to examine, to analyze, to explore, to determine, to evaluate. That's where you start your objective with. You don't start it anyhow. So that is it about research objective. I didn't talk about research questions there, but this thing is, the breakdown is your construct comes from your topic, your variable comes from your construct, your objective comes from your variables, and then your research question comes from your objective. Your research question cannot be different from your research objective. The only thing that is different is the way you phrase it. You get. For instance, let's go back to our objective here. Okay, the right objective is here. Let's go back to our objective here. To examine the efficiency of ChatGPT on content creation speed. Your research question for this research objective will now be, what is the efficiency of ChatGPT on content creation speed? So just like research objective has a starting phrase, research question so has a starting phrase, just like what is, to what extent, is majorly what question, and yeah, to what extent, to what degree. I'm thinking we don't normally use, probably occasionally we use how questions, but majority of the time we use what questions, to what extent, what is, because what and how is different from each other. So what is, you are talking, what is signifying a certain thing, how is descriptive. So majorly we ask what questions, not how questions, because what is definitive. You can quantify what, how is descriptive. All right. Okay. So we've been able to, we've been able to touch construct and variables. I think to a large extent, we've been able to cover our objective for this night.